Hi, I'm Daniel Lucas, and welcome to Book 101 Review. Book 101 is all about the books that I read for the last 40 years. And today I have my special guest. He is the author of the book Speedy, no other than Mr. Dave Letterfly Knoderer.
Thank you, Daniel. I'm glad to be here.
Welcome to Book 101, Mr. Dave. And can you please introduce more about yourself?
Well, I would be happy to. I am a traveling artist. I've been a creative my entire life. And at 16 years old, I decided I was going to go out and live an interesting life. So I joined the circus. And I found an fascinating way to live my life. And that's part of what's going on in this book here. It's actually Speedy is was my dad's nickname during World War II. That's his picture on the front of that old motorcycle. That was taken back in the 1940s. And my dad loved the circus. So that's where my passion for the circus came from, was from my dad. And what I ended up setting out to do is probably follow in my dad's footsteps, even though my dad did not join the circus. He became practical, I suppose. But he did live an interesting life way back when. That's why he earned the nickname Speedy, because every time he got a leave in the Army Air Corps, he would get on the before the motorcycle, he would get on the side of the road and hitchhike. He would hitchhike for half of the leave and get as far as he could and then hitchhike back. And then the other boys at the barracks would ask him where he went. And he always had a story about some faraway place. And so they called that he earned, I guess, earned the nickname Speedy. They also called him Speedy because he was kept going places. And that's what I
Yes.
like. I've 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 developed a way to live an exciting life of adventure my entire career as a creative.
So, Mr. Dave, how does the book depict the idea of airbrush reality versus truth?
The reality versus truth. It's probably more of a ideal type healing journey because my dad and I were like estranged when I was a kid living at home, and then I went out and started living an interesting life, and then as the result of personal growth, I ended up going back to my dad and becoming best friends with him. And he finally realized, hey, this kid is living an interesting life. Maybe I should wake up. And in retirement, he ended up spending a whole summer with me when I was living out there on the road. And some of the stories are in the book, and they're just absolutely just wonderful stories. He was a storyteller too, and so I guess I became a storyteller, following in his footsteps. Definitely. Yep. So if you're
Y-
interested in finding something that's got a bunch uh, of fascinating historical and in family stories and memoir that include stuff that's interesting like the circus, this is probably the book for you. Speedy hurled through havoc.
Interesting indeed, Mr. Dave. Let's talk about the character and development. Who is the main protagonist and what drives their journey?
Well, I would say that the main protagonist, two-thirds or a third of the way into the book, becomes myself, because I'm at the beginning, I'm telling you some backstory and introducing how my uh, mom and dad met each other and stuff. And then some of that was the frustrating childhood that I grew up in. And then it ends up with me launching myself out on the road, just like the way that my dad was. So the protagonist, it's a memoir. It's so large. The bulk of it is stories about interesting things that happened during my life of adventure, traveling most of the North America and half of Canada as a creative, not only as a musician and an artist, but as a horse trainer and a performer with the circus, uh, and then later on becoming an artist full time. And what I did was because I had learned how to travel by working with the circus, I was able to take my skills and apply them in a way that allowed me to continue to live a life of adventure. And I still do. I'm at my home in Florida half the year, and the other half of the year I'm in my RV traveling the country and putting artwork on motorcycles.
That is interesting indeed, Mr. Dave. Are there any significant relationships that impact the protagonist's choices?
Definitely, there certainly are. I have been fortunate in the fact that I have had an endless stream of mentors, people that had a skill or they knew something or some knowledge or they had some ability that I was fascinated with. And so you'll find fascinating other characters that are stories in this book, other Western cowboys, and even an elephant trainer that was pretty has a pretty significant story is in this book, along with show owners and characters and co-workers and girlfriends and lots of people, because people are what make up our lives.
Yes, indeed. And let's talk about the plot and structure, Mr. Dave. What is the main conflict in the story?
I would say it starts as a way to honor my dad, and then it explains where my passion comes, and then it reveals the conflict between a man and his son, because his son has these wild ideas about what he wants to do. And then in the course of as the years go by in the timeline of the memoir, healing takes place, and my dad and I, uh, what do you call it? We enter into forgiveness and reconciliation and those kinds of things, and we become best friends. So hopefully, it'll be an inspiring read, especially for those who may have may be suffering from an estranged relationship with a family member. It seems to be quite common. So I tried to make include things that would qualify as inspirational for the sake of those who may be suffering from some of the same stuff that I was suffering from.
Mr. Dave, are there any recurring motifs or symbols that enhance the plot?
Motifs, I would
Yes.
say the recurring motif has to do with how tragedy turns into the next opportunity and revealing the fact that unstoppability occurs when we embrace the problems rather than allowing ourselves to suffer from the problems, and immediately apply ourselves in a creative way to come up with a solution for whatever the problem is. And that's one of the things that I've had that has showed up in the reviews that I've been getting from this book and some of my other books, has to do with that theme of being uh, uh, constantly evolving and transforming challenges into opportunities in an effort to live an interesting, a positive life, and certainly to be an inspiration to those around us.
Constantly evolving, people. How does the book conclude? And it is a satisfying ending.
The satisfying ending has to do with a love story. And as I mentioned before, one of the many things that I did in my creative career was horse training. And the love story that I uh, introduce the reader to in this book has to do with a little jet black mule that I acquired as a baby, and I trained her to do a whole bunch of tricks, and she did some liberty, what's called liberty routine, and we developed a comedy act. I dressed up like an old prospector, and we did a comedy act where she looked like she was being belligerent, but she was actually trained to respond to my cues for the sake of the comedy routine. So the love story has to do with this wonderful little animal and how she became uh, endeared in my heart, and uh, and she she was just kind, wonderful. She was a very wonderful animal, and those of you who are animal lovers will appreciate the one-on-one, the the intimate relationship that is possible with our furry four-legged friends. And so, yeah, it concludes with that love story, with
Mr.
my
Dave,
little, yeah.
how does the book balance action with moments of reflection?
There are, I would say, yeah, it certainly does. There's plenty of action going on in this thing, and in a tremendous amount of different, colorful, exciting settings. And then the moments of reflection occur on a regular basis to punctuate and allow the reader to take a breath and contemplate the lessons learned as we're learning them. Definitely. Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Dave, what are some of the most intense or dramatic moments in the book?
The dramatic moments in this book, one of
Yes.
them has to do with my dad when he was spending the summer with me, and we were on the carnival, and I was painting signs, and he got a job running what they called the speedball game. And we were at a street festival in Fremont, Indiana. And my dad went ahead. He was having fun. He was having the time of his life. And he went ahead and announced to all the people in the town that were standing around trying to win the uh, the prize, which was a genuine major league batter's helmet. So it was a significant prize they could win by playing this game. And he went ahead and announced to everybody, anybody who throws three identical pitches will win three prizes, which was kind of, not the normal thing to do. If you win the game, you win one prize. But he was going ahead and making it, I guess, raising the stakes, and he got the attention of a whole bunch of the people, and he didn't know it, but they had a scheme up there sleeve, and they brought in a major league pitcher that was a friend of somebody, and the guy came and he wound up and he threw 100-mile-an-hour pitch, and my dad all of a sudden knew that he had been duped. And he went, "Oh dear, now what?" And then he hands him the ball, and then somebody in the crowd roars, "Hey, what's the deal with the three identical pitches?" And he has to repeat his promise again in front of the whole crowd as he carries the ball over to the guy and hands it to him. And the guy winds up and throws another 100-mile-an-hour pitch. And my dad realizes he's been duped, and he goes ahead, and he's a showman, and he holds the ball up and he says, "Okay, right now, this is this is going to determine the thing." And he gives the man the ball, and sure enough, he throws another 100-mile-an-hour pitch, and the crowd goes wild because finally somebody won big this big game. And it was like a pivotal moment in my dad's life because he got to be the king of the mountain, king of the, what do you call it, for the night, and then give the guy his prizes. And he just had a huge success with this evening that just turned him. It was a pivotal point in his life to become able to forget about being practical and do something interesting, and live your life, and make people happy while you're doing it. So that's a big highlight that's in the book.
Mr. Dave, what will be your short-term and long-term goals in writing?
I have several other memoirs in the works. As I mentioned, I've trained horses for 30 years. My next memoir is about my third horse. It's going to include the lifespan. I had this horse for his entire lifespan, and it's quite a love. It's another love story, and I learned a tremendous amount about horsemanship while I had this horse, and we accomplished a lot of things together. So, and then the other thing that's that's built into the memoir is the payoff, the lesson, and that lesson has to do with belonging and being at home and being enough right here where we are. So it's going to have another inspirational message for the reader to get. And so, yeah, my ambitions as an author are to create things that benefit the reader. And since my life has been a path of healing and transformation, I those kinds of things are included in everything that I write.
Good luck to your goal, Mr. Dave. And what will be your advice for those people out there who want to write their own book?
The thing to do with writing your own book, writing for me began with the healing part of the recovery process of the program. Many people do journaling to heal some of the past episodes in our lives where we were perhaps traumatized or damaged or any number of things like that. So it started with healing and then evolved from there. I made writing a part of my daily routine. And after the healing took place, I started with some marketing stories. I wrote some inspirational essays. And the next thing you know, I had enough content for a book and then another book. And now I've got 5 books out. And there's actually a book that your listeners can get a free download if you would like to announce that to them. There's a book that it's called Hit the
Yes.
Road and Thrive. Hit the Road and Thrive. And they can get a free download of Hit the Road and Thrive on my author website, which is called daveletterfly.com. They can get a free download. Hit the Road and Thrive, 7 Secrets for Living Your Dream. Another helpful, encouraging book.
Yes, people, download it now to empower your lives. Mr. Dave, what literary techniques are used to depict travel and movement in the speedy?
Travel and movement takes place on the road. So there are scenes where you're right there with me while I'm traveling from one place to another. So travel is depicted throughout all of my books because it's a big part of my life. I enjoy travel. I traveled just the week before last. So yeah, there's plenty of travel in my life, and I plan on continuing to travel. I love the RV lifestyle and seeing new parts of the country and getting to mix with people I've never met before and having a wonderful conversation. And especially whenever I get an invitation like you have extended for me to become a source of encouragement for the listeners out there who are interested in uh, a new perspective for perhaps looking at the way things happened in their lives, because there's with a with growth we can experience a shift in our perception that gives us a new outlook for the same life that we're already living. And that's what I'm all about. I want to help people uh, get the upgrade for a wonderful life.
Totally agree with you, Mr. Dave. But before we wrap up our discussion for today, I'm inviting you to please do listen to my other podcasts. I have a lot of podcasts, people. Abstract Essay in its fifth season, people. Fifth season, Abstract Poetry, a second season. Book 101 Review for sure, the fifth season already. Comedy 101 in the second season, and Food 101 in its
Wow.
fifth season too. Geography 101 in the fourth season, Love Letters in the third season, and Mental Health 101 is my baby podcast. First season, people, Mental Health 101, and Movie 101 review in its third season, as well as my music 101. So please do listen them
Yeah.
wherever you listen your podcast. So, Mr. Dave, what emotions does the book evoke and how does it leave an impact on the reader?
The impact has to do with what I call connection, because typically one of the things that we learn as children is separation. And then that is fortified by a lot of the messages that we get from around us, is that we're separate. But the truth of the matter is we are complete, we are whole. And when we embrace the fact that we are connected not only to everything around us, but especially to a higher power, all of a sudden we get a completely different perception than when we were believing those messages that we acquired as children, that we were separated and less than worthy. So, my message, even though I don't want to sound like a preacher, has to do with healing and recovery, and especially acquiring a healthy sense of being whole and complete just the way we are.
Just complete the way we are, people. So, Mr. Dave Letterfly Knoderer, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge to the world. And looking forward for more and more and more empowering books like this to come. So, can you please invite our listeners to support all your books? Mr. Dave, where they can buy your books.
My books are on Amazon.
And do you have a special website that people can visit?
Yes, you can look at my books on my website, which is letterfly.com.
Yes, people, let's support Mr. Dave Letterfly Knoderer because if you support him, I've said more and more and more empowering books to come. So, Mr. Dave, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you, my friend.
Bodycom people, see you soon.